Welcome to episode 7 of Motivating Mondays, a weekly podcast and YouTube series dedicated to help Canadian job development and other employer engagement professionals develop the tools, resources, expertise, and network needed to excel in achieving sustainable employment outcomes for their clients and students. My name is Christian St. Cyr, National Director of the Canadian Job Development Network, and today we're talking about tariff troubles and the devastating consequences for employers and job seekers alike. Between the social media posts and the on-again, off-again announcements, you might be wondering where we're at with the United States tariffs and the Canadian countermeasures. While there was a lot of rhetoric about tariffs out of the United States administration in January, with proposed implementation on February 4th, this was postponed until March 5th, when the United States imposed tariffs of 25% on Canadian exports and 10% on energy products from Canada, primarily oil and gas and natural gas. Canada responded by imposing tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods imported from the U.S., including products such as orange juice, peanut butter, wine, spirits, beer, coffee, appliances, apparel, footwear, motorcycles, cosmetics, and certain paper products. Now, a week later, the United States imposed tariffs of 25% on Canadian steel and aluminum products. Canada responded to this with 25% reciprocal tariffs on a total of $29.8 billion worth of products, but specifically including $12.6 billion in steel products, $3 billion in aluminum products, and $14.2 billion in additional imported U.S. goods such as tools, computers, servers, display monitors, sports equipment, and cast iron products. Then, after the United States imposed unilateral tariffs on most penguin and non-penguin inhabited countries around the world, Canada was mostly untouched, except for a lethal 25% tariff on Canadian automobiles. Canada responded by imposing a 25% tariff on non-CUSMA, Canada, United States, Mexico Agreement, non-CUSMA compliant vehicles imported into Canada from the United States, and 25% tariff on non-Canadian, non-Mexican content of CUSMA compliant vehicles imported into Canada from the United States. Most recently, the United States confirmed that they will soften the impact of auto tariffs and give a little relief to the industry. The levies aimed at forcing automakers to reshore manufacturing domestically has threatened to scramble North American automotive production North American automotive production network across both Canada and the United States as well as Mexico. So you might be wondering to yourself, how is it that the United States administration can apply these tariffs when we have the CUSMA deal? Well, only about 38% of U.S. imports from Canada were traded under the CUSMA provisions of in 2024. Analysts believe this low percentage, 38%, was largely due to the administrative burden of meeting its rules of origin requirements when a large share of U.S. general tariff rates were already 0% outside of the North American agreement. So the idea is that we had these agreements under 38% of CUSMA covered products, but we didn't need a CUSMA agreement on the other 62% of products because they already had zero tariff. Those are the products that are being subject to tariffs now. At present, it's the CUSMA agreement that is the saving grace for many automobiles and automotive parts governed under CUSMA. Meanwhile, Canadian softwood lumber producers could see more disruption since the U.S. Commerce Department has proposed raising the average combined duty rate, including both the anti-dumping and countervailing duties, with a final decision expected in August. So more information to come on that. Unfortunately, we can't be too reliant on CUSMA, as the first joint review of the Canada-U.S. Mexico Agreement, CUSMA, is scheduled for June 30th, 2026, so a little bit more than a year, 6 years after it came into force. This review is expected to determine whether the three parties, Canada, the United States, and Mexico, will extend the agreement for another 16 years. Oh, did I forget to mention that the United States isn't the only country that we have retaliatory trade disputes with? Last October, Canada imposed a 100% surtax on Chinese-made electric vehicles. In March of this year, 2025, China announced that it was imposing retaliatory tariffs of over $3 billion Canadian on Canadian agriculture and food products, which took effect on March 20th and is already having a devastating impact on Canadian farmers and the aquaculture sector. So here we are barely 100 days in, and while we're waiting for these issues to resolve themselves, at any moment we can expect more upheaval due to a midnight tweet or an impromptu comment. These rapid changes are expected to impact some populations more than others. According to a recent article in Money Sense, young Canadians, youth, might not be able to pursue careers that they've trained for if the sectors are tied to U.S. exports, like manufacturing or certain high-tech fields, if they get hit. In that case, many young people will be forced to pivot towards industries focused on Canadian or alternative export markets like Europe. Though this is the kind of shift that won't happen overnight, this, coupled with the escalating cost of living, could impact Gen Z for decades to come. So, what is the impact for local employers, and how will this impact future hiring? According to a survey conducted by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, 4 in 5 businesses have seen changes resulting from the Canada-US trade war. These changes include higher costs, a weaker dollar, pricing changes, reduced profits, and lower demand. According to this poll by the CFIB, the changes experienced by small businesses due to the Canada-US trade war include increased cost of goods or supplies. That was noted by over half of employers, 51%. Impact of a weakened Canadian dollar, such as higher import costs, pricing challenges. That was noted by 39%. Increased difficulty pricing products, goods, and services competitively, 37%. Reduced profits, 35%. Lower customer demand, also 35%. All of these impacts weaken the finances of local employers, reducing their ability to effectively staff their organizations. Real impacts don't necessarily displace the top worries that employers fear about the U.S.-Canada trade war, including, and these are just some of the things that are concerning employers on a daily basis, economic uncertainty. 82%, or 4 in 5 employers, said that economic uncertainty is a major concern for them. 63% said increased operational costs. 56% said difficulty pricing products and services competitively. 44% said that they are worried about the currency exchange rate and its volatility. And 42% said they are worried about business cash flow, paying rent, meeting payroll, paying suppliers, mortgages, getting paid by customers. These are the top concerns of local employers that we're dealing with every single day. Having now completed the federal election, Mark Carney is Canada's new Prime Minister, and employers are looking not just to the federal government, but to their provincial governments as well to help cultivate interprovincial trade and labor mobility, provide financial support to impacted businesses, and to address the U.S. tariffs with the intention of eventually restoring our trade relationship with the United States. Now, tariffs have already hit many small businesses hard. The CFIB is urging government to do the following 6 things. 1, ensure any counter tariffs do not have a broad impact on Canadian small and medium-sized enterprises. 2, focus business supports not just on the major companies, the car companies, the motion picture industry, the agricultural producers, but to be able to focus on small businesses as well. 3, quickly inject any money collected through counter tariffs back into the economy. 4, reduce taxes and red tape to make sure that Canadian small businesses are better equipped to stay competitive with their American and global counterparts. 5, implement a mutual recognition agreement to bring down interprovincial trade barriers, allowing goods and individuals to move more smoothly back and forth between provinces. And the last one, point 6, provide support for businesses experiencing challenges in pivoting their operations, help with shipping costs, rules of origin compliance, and logistics. So those are the recommendations for government. While our current trade war was started by impetuous, self-centered decision-making, it seems somehow inevitable. Free trade was a strategy pursued worldwide since the end of World War II and has produced immeasurable worldwide benefits as well as many devastating side effects. But it's created a clockwork economy that has stimulated most recently 15 years of continuous economic growth, unprecedented in the last 100 years. And even though all of this has been accelerated by an impetuous man-child who's been throwing rocks into the delicate clockwork machinery of the world economy just to see what might happen, we're proceeding down what can easily be identified as a precedented path. Now, to get a little historical on you, the U.S. Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930, I know you all know it, raised tariffs on imports by about 20% with the intention of stimulating U.S. manufacturing and other industries, but had significant negative impacts on the global economy during the Great Depression. It contributed to a global trade war, leading to a sharp decline in international trade and worsening the Depression's effects. Now, generally, in these weekly Motivating Mondays, I try to provide this as an opportunity to provide a positive take on a job development issue. But I believe any attempt to do so right now is like putting bronzer on a pig. We need to be able to call these things out as being serious issues that people need to prepare for. This trade war is going to have a generational impact on the labor market. Things are likely to get a lot worse before they get better. And I believe there are two messages that job seekers and employers can take away to significantly improve their prospects during this period of time. Employers need to do an inventory of the economic impacts of increased costs of international tariffs. It's easy to look at manufacturing or agriculture and see direct impacts, but there are also industries that will be impacted in a secondary fashion. Just today, the U.S. administration came out to say that they're going to apply a 100% tariff on movies that are coming out of non-U.S. jurisdictions. China, on the other hand, has announced that they'll be limiting the distribution of American films and other entertainment within their country. But this too has an impact on Canadian companies contributing to the development and distribution of Western films, music, other entertainment, and video games. An economic squeeze will disproportionately impact businesses that rely on discretionary income. Businesses that rely on travel and luxury goods and entertainment are going to be disproportionately impacted in comparison to those selling consumer goods and services, such as groceries, education, transportation, and healthcare. And even these sectors will be impacted by consumers trying to make decisions based on rising costs and limited income. In conducting an inventory, a business needs to focus on the sectors that are sustainable in a downturn economy. And employers are going to regularly look for opportunities to automate their functions, utilize AI, contract work out, and limit salaries and other business costs. The key takeaway for job seekers here in this economic climate is to focus on skills development. Certainly, 1, 2, and 4-year training programs with a strong vocational outcome would be ideal. This would include most Red Seal apprenticeships, but would also include occupationally specific programs such as nursing, engineering, teaching, pharmacy, and training programs that lead to a certified occupation as a technician or a technologist. While a longer training program is going to be ideal, or is not going to be ideal or available to many job seekers, I cannot stress enough the importance of skills development, whether in the form of certificates, diplomas, or micro-credentials. It is critical in our job development role to be actively engaged in conversations with local businesses about the challenges that they're facing in this economy, how their businesses are changing, and what decisions they are making in the best interests of their enterprise. If an employer is contracting out, we can see pathways to self-employment. If an employer is introducing a new point of payment system, can we provide training in this area to make our clients more employable? We need employer-informed answers in order to provide employee-based solutions. For several years now, I have been telling my own children that COVID was likely to be the seminal event of their lives, similar to in previous generations' wars, economic strife, or technological transformation. As I watch all of these trade wars unfold, it occurs to me the long-term implications of this trade war could easily eclipse the long-term implications of COVID. Savvy job seekers need to focus on understanding these changes, developing new skills, and speaking to the changing needs of employers as the best pathway to prepare for these changes. Those competing for an ever-increasing selection of entry-level jobs will increasingly struggle in the years to come. Job search is going to require proactivity, and job seekers need to embrace this. So I want to thank you so much for joining us. Click on the like or subscribe button in the platform. We'd also love it if you could rate or review the podcast. We do these sessions live and for free every Monday morning with job developers across the country, and we'd love for you to join us. Just go to jobdevelopment.org to learn more. If you have any questions, please send us an email at info@jobdevelopment.org. Thank you so much for your time and have an amazing week.